Hello, I'm Wesley Allen, and for my favorite poem project, I have chosen a poem called The Charles River Nocturne by Robert Fitzgerald. Robert Fitzgerald was a poet. He attended Harvard starting in 1929. I believe he graduated in 1933. This poem was published while he was in Harvard in 1931. I don't know the exact date it was written, but it was written in the middle of the Great Depression era. Now, this poem is very melancholy. It may not quite capture America today, but for the time period it was in, it was certainly a window into the feelings of America and her people. The poem itself is very sort of melancholic. This poem was published alongside a handful of his other works in sort of a small collection of poetry of the time. Fitzgerald himself isn't quite known for this poem or any of his others in particular. What he's most known for, and why he was probably instated as a poet laureate, was that he had a lot of translating work done. He is well known for translating things like the Iliad and the Odyssey in editions that we often still use today. Now, a lot of his poetry, though, is Depression era centric. The images in Charles River Nocturne is dim. It is, what you would think of the Depression era. There is emotion, but not elation. Not all America was quite as affected by the Great Depression. Perhaps some people didn't relate to it quite as much as others, but the New England area, which held quite a lot of wealth, was obviously hit very hard. This poem kind of does reflect like a New England coastal city setting. The imagery is, it's night, it's dark, it's dreary. You can tell that this imagery that he's putting forth is not the peak of America. Now, we don't need to always show the best to be good. Of course, poetry is a lot about venting emotion, and this emotion that he's putting forth is definitely the emotions that American people, especially around his area where he grew up and went to school, these are the emotions they were feeling. This poem was probably very relatable for many of the people it was published for. Now for the poem Charles River Nocturne by Robert Fitzgerald. Reflecting remote swords, chilled in the calm and liquid darkness, lights on the esplanade prolong the night's edge downward all night long. To those whose nostrils ache with the strong darkness, those who in hunger press against the waters, those without birth or death, to whom the cold ocean, long laboring in her regal womb, whispers a word of foam. The lavish cars move westward in an eddy and dance of shadow under the dazed lamps on the lifeless shore.